child. Dry your crying eyes. How can I explain the fear you feel inside?
Hey guys, Joe here. Been a little bit since I made a video. I guess I'm mainly going to talk about the webbot, and maybe this could be up for discussion. Not really any predictions, other than some new information that he kind of elaborates on. And just so you know, my wife and kids are all up in North Carolina, and they will remain there visiting some family until after the July 11th date. A few days after that, then they will be coming back, assuming everything's okay. Um, doesn't really matter. I didn't ship them up there because of this event specifically. She was already going to visit some family in New Jersey in early July, which got canceled. So she still wanted to go somewhere, and North Carolina thing came right up, and so she was going anyways. But anyways, part of the reason she definitely went at the time she went and is staying as long as she's staying is because of the July 11th date, just in case, some oil stuff in Florida, whatever. I don't know. But I want to read this. This is from Clif High, the guy that created, whatever, the webbot. He posted this on his website recently. He normally doesn't update his website. It's almost pointless to go there and look for updates because he like I say, he almost never writes anything. His friend George does. And anyways, it says, after speaking with George about the current events of today and having run into a wall of confusion and misunderstanding between us over certain forecasts and the language and the tension values, I thought it was wise to post a small article and a chart in aid of the confusion, either to increase or decrease. The issue is the July 11th break into 18.5 hours of release language. George and apparently others are under the impression that some big thing would happen on that date. This may well be the case. However, note that the release language, which is all the downward slanting lines in the charts below, continues all summer as punctuations to building tension. So the pattern from July 11th through to November 8th is one of building tension and then release of tension, almost on a daily basis. This note that this is the usual state of our charts for the planet. What is unusual is that we have been in a very long period of building tension for these past few months. What is also unusual is the tipping point that is forecast to occur over 4 days in November from the 8th through the 11th inclusive. Then what is even more unusual is that the release language continues unabated without deviation for over 2 months, from November 11th through to January 23rd. Please note that some slight distortion in the charting software related to fonts alters dates placements visually. The above dates are from the new raw data, not from charting. And I'll show you the chart whenever it gets to that point. So knowing that the September 11th attacks on the on the money center of the planet by the powers that be, we call this the 9/11 event, had a tipping point that lasted about 4 hours, followed by 12 hours of release language, before turning to building tension language as the planet tried to sort things out the next day. We can base our speculations on what may occur given the values that we have forecast for release and building tension language trends. They're talking about a 2-month period of release language coming up in November. That's serious. Now on July 11th, the crocodile teeth pattern of daily building tensions followed by release tension returns. This lasts in a general way until the tipping point on November 8th forms. The daily release of tension does not purge from the total buildup of tension completely, so the general trend is one of a building tension continuum through to November 8th. In addition to the chart below, note that the collector programs that we run that collect daily language and compare it to forecasts has a sudden jump from 0.9% fulfillment to over 9.8% fulfillment in the Israeli mistake language. So it appears as though the Israelis are going to attack Iran within a short period of time, perhaps within the next 30 days. This would fit the release language on the 11th of July or any of the subsequent release language episodes for the rest of that month. One can also monkey mind to speculate that the 12 days of torment for the Obama administration minions over the first 12 days of August could be provoked by the Israeli mistake having been initiated in the weeks prior. And then Obama, of course, would have to make some kind of decision, 12 days of stress, and on August, whatever, who knows. I had a failure of imagination in that I could not conceive of the Israeli mistake, which is the attack on Iran, as taking months to lead to an overwhelming response, such as, say, global nuclear war. This was a failure on my part. In speaking with George, we were able to noodle up a scenario whereby it does take several months following the Israeli mistake launch before the multinational thermonuclear response does occur. This then does fit the current chart from a speculative monkey mind perspective. In that a July attack on Iran produces a November global thermonuclear war as the Allies take on the powers that be and their stooges, the Israelis and the American military empire. Being a human, this idea that the powers that be trick the populace of the planet into yet another useless war over religion by the religious in servitude slavish worship of the irreligious does not sit well with me. I had repeatedly thought that the terror entity involvement within the November tipping point could well be the clue that it was not going to be horrific, species-ending war, but rather be some giant earth change, such as the Pacific tectonic plate cracking that we are also expecting, or even giant radiation from the sun. However, the recent and very large jump in magnitude of the language forecast for the Israeli mistake, subset, active war launch, is too much to ignore. So without regard as to how long it may take, or the many other ramifications, the data streaming in now suggests that the Israeli mistake that leads to so much planetary misery is on, and likely soon. Please note that the temporal markers along the way to the active attack phase of the Israeli mistake have all been met, and the largest and closest of the actual manifestation of the Israeli mistake was the ranking general, and I used to call it Fox Paws. It is called Faux Po, or Fa Po, ranking general Fa Po, that we have just seen fulfilled in these most recent news stories about Obama and his General McChrystal. So my opinion has altered in that it is seeming more likely by the day that the Israeli mistake is on and soon. Many of the critical elements are now in place are not able, from a military logistics viewpoint, to be maintained for too long in place before their usefulness degrades below acceptable levels. Therefore, certain conclusions need to be drawn appropriately. As you may note from the chart below, the period from July 11th to the tipping point of November 8th through the 11th is both very short and extremely toothy, as may be expected of the time between the skirmish, which is the Israeli mistake attack on Iran, and the resultant global thermonuclear war. Also note, we could be wrong about the whats and whys of the building tension and release tension points. There is always consistent hope for that, as we get the details wrong repeatedly. However, the temporal marker of the ranking general in deep shit came from some data set that produced the Israeli mistake forecast. So, take it all as speculative until it is not. Now it is up to you to decide what will occur and how. After all, it is the mass of humans who run this planet. Though they may not rule it, they can shut down and stop anything they choose when they choose by simply not cooperating with the stupid BS from the system, aka the powers that be. Which is true, but as you all know, everyone's brainwashed or a bunch of sheep. I was just reading some statistics today that say 20% of Americans think the sun revolves around the earth. That's 1 out of 5 Americans think the sun actually revolves around the earth. Not that the planets revolve around the sun. This is the year 2010. Now I know how much trouble we're in. Unbelievable. So let's look at this little chart. And I'm only got about 20 seconds left for 10 minutes, so I'll just leave this here for a second. You can pause the video.